Hi, welcome back to another episode of Thinking Inside the Box on Noah's Ark.
Over bridge of sights to rest.
Today we're going to talk about this tape effect called tape flanging, which is a creative effect that was first introduced by engineer Glyn Johns on the Small Faces track in 1967. So the track is called Ichiku Park, and I've got myself a vinyl record of their first debut record. It's the American version, but it's called There Are But Four Small Faces, and let's listen to the track and see how the effect sounds like.
Over bridge of sights to rest my eyes in shades of green. Under dreaming spires to Ichiku Park, that's where I've been. What did you do there? I got high. What did you feel there? Well, I cried. But why the tears there? Tell you why. It's all too beautiful. It's all too beautiful. I feel inclined to blow my mind. Get on, feed the ducks with a bun. They all come out to groove about, be nice and have fun and listen. I tell you what.
So how was this effect created in the first place in the analog domain? Well, one had to use 3 tape machines to achieve that effect. You had the first tape machine that had the final mix on it. The second tape machine would have the exact same copy, and the 2 machines would run synchronized. And the signal of those 2 machines would be summed in a third machine and recorded there. But the trick is, the second machine would be tampered by the engineer, and he would apply pressure on the reel so that it would introduce slight variation in the speed. So the tape would either catch up or speed up and slow down, and it would introduce slight phasing with the original signal when summed together. And this is why some people like to call this effect also tape phasing, because all it actually is 2 waveforms that cancel each other out. So this is basically how it works with tape machines. But let's see how we can translate that in the digital domain, in the DAW. So let's jump into Pro Tools to try to create that effect in the box. So here I've got Pro Tools opened with a track of mine called Rocket Radio from my second album, and it features this tape flanging effect. So this is why I'm going to show you the effect on this track. I'm going to play the beginning a little bit so that you can get a hang of how the track sounds like. Here it is. So to produce the effect, I'm going to use a universal audio plugin called the Ampex ATR 102 mastering tape plugin. And usually I use it on the mix bus to add some kind of tape coloration, tape saturation. But I'm going to use the wow and flutter and tape delay setting this time, which I don't usually use. But I've got the wow, set up, cranked up right at the maximum so that I can have this kind of exaggerated effect. And why did I choose the wow setting? Well, because wow and flutter, they describe measurements of speed fluctuation that occur on a tape machine. And the wow is going to be kind of a slower oscillation compared to the flutter one. And I've chosen the wow because it simulates a little closer the actual, tampering of the reel by the engineer. When the engineer puts pressure on the reel, it's going to simulate kind of a wow oscillation. So I've cranked up the wow. I can turn on the wow and flutter now, and the tape delay is going to produce the tape flanging sound. And the dry and wet signal is going to be, what determines how much of the effect is going to be printed on. So I've got it 75-25 because I kind of like that depth in this track. In order to set this effect, precisely at the right moment, I've added some automation on the track, and this is where I wanted the effect to be occurring. So I've got the wow and flutter on the first and the tape delay on the second. So if I zoom in a little bit, you're going to see that they're kind of, not placed exactly the same spot. Well, the tape delay is going to be turning off a little later because it's going to produce this kind of phasing that's going to try to restore to the original sound. That kind of sounds nice, I felt, so I left it there. So this is kind of what it sounds like without the effect. And when I added the automation, this is how it sounded like. So you notice that kind of like restoration sound, when the one flutter turns off, the tape delay is still going on. And this is where there's this kind of like airplane crashing kind of sound that I really like. But the thing is, sometimes the separation when you turn off the setting of the plugin is going to be noticeable because there's going to be a level drop. So what I did on the fourth track is that I've added a long crossfade whenever I felt like it was really too noticeable. So this is the effect without the crossfade. And you're going to see that at the end, you're going to hear this kind of subtle level drop. And this is why I've added a crossfade to eradicate that error. So this is without the crossfade. See how it dropped, a couple of, tens of dBs. With the crossfade, you won't be able to notice it that much. Barely noticeable. So this is kind of how I set up my tape flanging on this track. I hope you liked the tutorial. So there you go, tape flanging in the DAW. I hope you liked the video, and please subscribe if you want to stay up to date to my next videos. Please do comment on the section below and let me know how you achieve that effect in your DAW. And I'll see you next time for another video.